All right, so let's introduce the panel. Mr. David Dolly. Mr. David Dolly, yes. He's a senior lecturer, agricultural extension, University of the West Indies. Just a brief bio on Dr. Dolly. He has worked extensively in areas of education, rural development and agricultural education and extension. He teaches rural development and sociology, conducts research with farmer field schools, and is active in outreach through farmers field schools as well. Mr. Sereno Benjamin, do I have it right? Mr. Sereno Benjamin, yes. He's an agricultural extension officer, yes, from 1984. Wow, it's quite some time. And you are from? Antigua. Okay then. Yeah. And we have Mr. Felix Leslie. Mr. Felix Leslie, yes. Mr. Leslie is from, I don't have it here, you're from Dominica, okay. And your work experience includes technical officer responsible for agricultural extension, spearheads the development and implementation of the National Agricultural Extension Program. So I guess you have quite a lot to say today to us. And Mr. Joe Perez, or is it Perez? Perez. Okay. And he's the Managing Director of Carbon Chemicals Agencies Limited, based in Trinidad and Tobago. Mr. Perez is the Managing Director of Carbon Chemicals, which we all know is one of the main regional suppliers of agricultural and industrial chemicals. Yes, we have next our added panelist, Mr. Ganesh Ganga Prasad. And he's from Trinidad? Trinidad, he's from Trinidad. And you are the Director of Development Services. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, okay. Yes, well, welcome, and let's get right down to business.
NAMDEFCO is a state enterprise within the Ministry of Agriculture in Trinidad that facilitates the marketing of agricultural produce. And what we have found is that over the last few years, to facilitate some of our goals and objectives, we had to provide a support to the farmers that will facilitate the delivery of a product or a service that will meet with one of our mandates and inherently satisfy what we call the marketing requirements for fresh produce. Now, in our view, we didn't set out to do extension work, but was really to provide regulatory type work to our clientele. But it gradually evolved into what we are calling extension support. And in our view, our role as extensionists within the NAMDEFCO scenario, we see that we needed to get very focused into what we deliver to our clientele. As I said, the consumer dictates what we do. We look at it from that scenario. So we identify firstly, as I said, the goals and the objectives. And we saw that the market requirements are the ones that actually trigger the intervention. So we look firstly at what product we are supposed to deliver, what product the farmers are supposed to deliver. We marry that now with the standards, because we see an extensionist as not only providing extension support in terms of production, be it livestock or produce, but they need to have an understanding of the final product, the grades and standards associated with that product. And I'm talking market requirements here. MRLs are playing a very important role in the picture now, maximum residual levels. How this product is supposed to be packaged to the consumer or the middleman or whoever the case might be. And more in the post-harvest implications that we need to talk about. So we're not only talking pure extension and communication, but we're also talking about empowering the extentionists with a gamut of information that will help them put in those 2 cents, as we call it, to make the delivery of the service more all-encompassing. Because we see that the extensionist is expected to have the answer to all questions outside of the focus point. And its marketing, its production, and even personal problems on the farm is more so as a growing demand on our extensionists. Because we want to make sure that at the end of the day, product is realized. And in so doing, we have embarked on what we call an orientation program for all of our field officers at NAMDEFCO. where we undergo each officer with an initial 2 weeks orientation, followed by ongoing awareness/orientation training program, where every aspect of our mandate that are expected to be delivered out of the field officer are taught to them or they are made aware of. So we go through marketing, market requirements, the role of the stakeholders, and in so doing we try to identify all the stakeholders, because the extensionist now needs to know who are the stakeholders in that marketplace, and we kind of like going towards that commodity value chain approach where we marry all persons involved in the production of whatever product we're looking at, and all persons know what your role and function is. So it's not only knowing the farmer, but knowing everybody else in your little sphere. We have sought to equip our field officers with information, real-time information, and in so doing, we have gone the route of technology, and most of you would have heard about our NAMIS, our Market Information System, and we have equip them with these little iPhone devices where we capture real-time data on the farm. We have also gone the route of providing them with these small notebooks, laptop, where you can download information real-time, provide it to the farmers at that point in time, do data entry, upload back into the server.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and a pleasant good morning to everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Getting to the point before us on extension, may I say that extension has been a subject of discussion in Dominica and in the Caribbean for several years. The document before me say about 15 years. And it is interesting when I look at the 15 years because it seems to coincide with the demise of the banana industry that most persons in the windwards depended upon. As we look at Dominica and a historical view, historical perspective of extension, it would be good to look at this vis-a-vis with agricultural development, because they go hand in hand. I submit an agricultural scientist is not necessarily an extension scientist. They are different, but they go hand in hand. But just to tell you quickly and to give you some background, Dominica depends on agriculture, and that dependency has been for a number of years. There was once agriculture contributed up to 70% to the island's economy. And of this 70%, bananas contributed 90%. So it's significant when you look at the contribution of agriculture. Just to let you know, in 1922, Dominica was the world's largest producer of limes, and we exported limes to as far as Australia. And then we come to the plantation crops such as coffee and cocoa in the 1920s and the 1930s. Then I speak of the giants, which are bananas, citrus, and coconuts. All these were important in the agricultural sector. Bananas dominated from the late 1940s to the 1980s, and I have alluded to that before. Following the post-Hurricane David era, we saw some projects like the tree crop project, the coffee project, coming on stream, that is to help in the sector. But why do I bring all this information to you this morning? It is important to note that the development of this crop, the extension services in Dominica led in the development of this crop. As a young boy growing up at home, I used to have a brother who was an extension officer in bananas. And I always used to think about the changes in banana production. And I used to discuss with him, how are you able to implement the changes? It really reflects a dedicated group of persons who have assisted in agricultural extension. Farmers did not just do things. They were trained, they were educated, they were directed, and they adopted the technology. Even as I speak, listening to a recent radio program, whilst the criticism and bashing was going on extension, there were still few farmers who had the guts to call and say that we want to thank Extension for the work they have done over the years.
Well, what I'll do is I'll quickly suggest 7 things that I feel could be of use to to thinking about a new extension service. At present, I think too much is expected of one person as an agent, and we have to do something about that. And therefore, we have to develop other kinds of extension initiatives. NGOs, science departments, faith-based organizations should get their own extension services. Networks could help. We must have better policies to recognize the use of other kinds of extension services. We must minimize overlapping, we must maximize specialization. And from what I heard of what NAMDEFCO is doing, that's the kind of thing we need to do. We need to go into the direction of taking, I wasn't sure if the field officer was an extension officer, but it seems so, right? And I think that's the direction we have to go, right? So, because I don't think that's a government extension officer you're talking about. So we going in the right direction when we specialize like that. The other thing I think we have to do is we have to make research more reliable and more focused. You know, there's too much academic freedom, and we're not really, people are just researching what they want, and then they throw it at the extension, and they expect extension to transfer it and to meet all kinds of technology needs that don't really exist. We have to sort of do a little better work on that. The third thing is you definitely have to remunerate the people who do this kind of work better. Most of us work on poor salaries, poor perks, poor offices, poor equipment, weak networking capabilities. A simple thing like a soil test, if you as an agent have to negotiate a soil test from the soil science department, it might take 6 months to get the soil test results, by which time of course the soil change again, you know. And so we really have to improve that kind of conduct to help and support the situation. Now, the other thing that seems to be happening is that there's a lot of mistrust. Supervisors mistrust bosses, bosses mistrust supervisors, bosses mistrust farmers, farmers mistrust farmers. We have to clean that up. Somehow we have to try to clean that up, right?
Let me start off by saying that I feel like I may be the only bad person on this table. Coming from private sector and I guess being the only private extension service on the panel, I hope I don't get attacked a lot later. But anyway, just briefly, Caribbean Chemicals was formed in 1966 on the pure principle and foundation that to educate farmers was its key role. And for many, many years, that's what we've done, and we still do today, 44 years later. In 1984, when I joined the company, I remember quite clearly walking into the food basket areas of Trinidad and Tobago and actually meeting extension officers that were there. Usually by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, the extension officers would disappear. And slowly but surely, the private sector in Trinidad and Tobago, because of its aggressiveness, took over, I think, the extension services of the Ministry of Agriculture. And by this year, I think, if I come rather quickly, there are about 25-30 private sector agronomists who go out in the fields to assist farmers in their identifying their pests and diseases and providing solutions. Caribbean Chemicals itself has about 10 agronomists, including myself, with a minimum degree of the degree in agriculture from the University of West Indies. I think we have 2 or 3 with masters, and we have 2 or 3 with foreign, non-Caribbean based degrees. As you know, Caribbean Chemicals has offices in Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, and we distribute throughout the Caribbean. In Jamaica, we now have in our joint venture 5 sales agronomists, and in Guyana we have 7. In Barbados, I'm aware that our distributor there has 3 agronomists and his competitor has 2. In some of the islands that we sell to, 1 or 2 companies may have 1 or 2 agronomists. And I say agronomists, we call them sales agronomists. Their primary job is to identify pests and diseases in the fields. Sometimes, and in most cases, and I apologize for this in Trinidad, we are the first to identify pests and diseases before even the Ministry of Agriculture knows or is aware of what is happening in the fields.